Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are now going into Game 2 here in Group B at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championships. Brought to you live from the Spartak Arena in Katowice, Poland. The last Western hope for League of Legends, for the LCS, now lies with Cloud9. They are taking on Team WE. We do have Crepa joining us at the analyst desk. I want to get your opinion on this matchup now, C9 versus WE. What are we expecting going into the game?
I mean, I'm rooting for my home turf, America.
Well, they've beaten you enough times. I mean,
yes.
what can they take into this game?
They take the experience of beating a quality team like ourselves and hope to match the same game plan against WE. Honestly, I'm not sure what the new WE is exactly going to bring. I don't think they have the power to individually completely outplay their counterparts on Cloud9. I really like what Cloud9 can bring. I really think Balls is really solid. I think Medios is really solid. Their bot lane performs rather well most of the time. I'm not sure, honestly. I have no idea.
I think that's some quite strong words. Before we carry on with the discussion, I just want to introduce the teams to you guys at home. Let's start with the blue side. It is going to be Cloud9. Balls in the top lane, Medios in the jungle, High in the mid lane with Sneaky and Elimination as your AD carry and support. Let's move along to Team WE. And this is why I want to pick your brain about the individual matchups. Tsaomei in the top lane, Ruo in the jungle, Sukim in the mid lane with Wei Zhao and Conan, your AD carry and support. Now, we'll get back to Crepa in a second. What's your take on Cloud9 matching up on an individual level? Balls versus Tsaomei. We see Sneaky versus Wei Zhao. I'm not quite as convinced that they're going to be able to stay even in lanes.
Yeah, I definitely think WE is going to come out ahead. But we have to see. Like, we know Chinese teams, they love to lane swap. They might actually just lane swap and then it's going to go even. They love to dive. Both teams are diving and they're basically just trading 1-for-1 and a lot of turrets. So after that, we will see how are the mid-game rotations. Because we know Cloud9, they're really strong for the mid-game rotations. So if a lane swap happens, I feel like it might even be in their favor. So in the mid lane, that's where the change will be then. Because we know High, he likes to play assassins. He also sometimes go for the standard mids, but like he's been playing Kha'Zix quite a bit. He's also been playing Zed, like picking up some of the Bjergsen champions. And we know the Chinese, Sukim, he loves to play the farm-heavy champions. Like, he loves to play Orianna, he loves to play Ziggs. And all those champions can poke an assassin out of lane in the early game. And it's also really easy to actually siege against those champions because they don't have a lot of wave clear. So if a lane swap happens, they have to be prepared to actually like go up against a massive siege that WE will actually put onto them.
Yeah. I think those are very valid points. It's a bit of a big of a hypothetical here. I do think people underestimate Balls a lot of the time, and he just plays so solid every time. He doesn't win his lane, and maybe he will lose his lane perhaps, but I rarely see him absolutely get gutted or destroyed in his laning phase, and he's just really solid. I'm looking forward to see if Tsaomei has an answer to the Renekton Shyvana that he likes to bring out. Maybe they ban Renekton and force him on the Shiv, and they have an answer to that. I'm really interested to see how this drafting phase will turn out to be, because that's going to have a lot of information about the rest of the game.
Yeah, I also want to see how these two individual top laners respond to the rest of the map. Something that we talked about quite extensively with regards to Team WE is how Tsaomei really likes to roam and gank that mid lane. We talked about Renekton, we talked about Shyvana, how he's also played that recently. And while Balls has done it, I think Tsaomei is probably a little bit better in terms of reading his times.
I still have nightmares about his Rengar at APL. It's just such a menace to deal with. Back then, split pushing wasn't as established yet, so teams had less of an idea how to deal with it. But every time we left our base, he was in there, just backdooring with Rengar.
I especially think we have to touch on the Rengar, because after the nerfs, everybody except for China stopped playing Rengar. China still loves to play Rengar. Like, he might not be the strongest in lane, but all you need to do is push up the lane once you hit level 6, and you have your ultimate. Like, the mid laners, they have to be really afraid whenever Rengar goes missing. It's one snare, and he can tank the turret for at least 3 or 4 hits, and that's enough time to actually kill them.
Yeah, and it's also something that Tsaomei does tend to do, is he builds a lot of very tanky items on their Rengar. Just for some information for you guys at home, Team WE are currently second in the LPL. Their current score is 3-2. They've lost some games to some very tough opponents who beat them in very closely contested games. In comparison, Team IG are second last in the LPL. So in a theoretical world, WE should be coming into this tournament as the stronger Chinese team. Once again, this is all theoretical. They're playing different opponents. It's a different game plan. Let's talk a little bit more about Cloud9. We've highlighted some of the individuals. We've spoken extensively about the top lane. I want to draw attention now to the bottom lane. Crepo, how are Sneaky and Elimination going to deal with Wei Xiao and Conan? We may see the lane swap, so maybe it's not even going to be a factor. But what about the duo pairing? You know, Lemon, in my opinion, is a very strong support. He's a very intelligent support. He tends to make very calculated plays, not necessarily always the most aggressive or the most safe. You really feel like he thinks about every move he makes.
He's definitely depicted as like the analyst for their team in game or their shot caller almost. He has a lot of good games. Sometimes he had a few bad ones lately though. I recall one any game where he didn't do like tremendously. I mean, no hating, everybody has bad games. I honestly don't have enough of an insight on WE's bot lane to know how they play, what they can offer and what they can't. I know Wei Xiao is incredibly good on lane. He CSs very well. At the same time, my Sneaky CSs generally very well as well. It's going to be a tough call for me. I don't have all the information I need actually to judge that call, so I'm just going to leave it up to maybe Froggen knows. But I, from my initial impression, or from what I think is going to happen, I don't think it's going to snowball too hard either way.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see the bottom lane snowball. So far in all our matches today, we haven't seen bottom lane really pull ahead with like 50 CS and kills.
Generally, to be fair, there's been a few lane swaps.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of lane swaps going on. And Gen.Z, they love to lane swap. But even then, I could see like the WE pulling out like 20 CS lead maybe. Like Wei Xiao is incredibly good at like harassing the opponent while CSing. He will rarely give up CS to actually trade. So I would expect a fairly passive lane.
Well, we'll see how that pans out if we do end up having those head-to-heads. Let's talk about some junglers. Now, we do, of course, have Ruo over for WE. But my focus is going to be on Meteos. Meteos in particular, he went from being a very sort of farm-heavy jungler last year to being a very aggressive gank-heavy jungler this year. I feel like he has evolved his gameplay. He has stepped up. Do you think he's going to be able to have a positive impact in this laning phase for Cloud9?
I mean, I think people characterize Meteos too hard in one direction all the time they speak about him. I mean, you do that automatically. He just has become a very versatile jungler. He makes good decisions. I like to see him on the likes of Elise or Evelyn to put a lot of pressure on the map. His Lee Sin has been evolving throughout the experience he got from it in the LCS as well. I remember talking to him maybe a month and a half ago, and he was like, "Yeah, Lee Sin, I'm trading it in scrims, it's not working too well. My insect non-existent." And then you meet him in solo queue a month later, and he's pulling out the like smooth insects, even kick flashes and the like. So mechanically, he trained that champion almost to perfection, or as close as he can get probably. And it definitely shows how much effort he puts into every one of his jungle champions, and it pays off in a lot of their games.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The Lee Sin and Elise picks are going to be really important for this game. Both junglers can dive extremely well. We know Elise is probably the best tower diver in the game because you can just repel up and you have a ton of damage that basically can't miss. So I would see Elise getting contested, and maybe as a counter pick to Elise, you would pick Lee Sin because it's going to be lane swap situation perhaps.
Tying in with that, it's incredibly hard to dive a Renekton, and it's going to be easy to dive as a Renekton. So that might be just another contested pick, fitting both top laner style champions and matches well against what both teams try to do.
This is a very difficult pick ban phase. I'm going to pick your brains for some of the champions in just a moment, but just so you guys at home know, we are getting ready on stage with just to introduce the teams by Shox. We do have that public poll running for you guys, and it has been running all day long. ESLgaming.com, click on the live Katowice link right at the top, and you can get involved. For this matchup, once again, we see it going in favor of Cloud9. It is 58% over Team WE. I think, once again, sort of a bit of a Western bias. It is, of course, our home team, so to speak. Do you feel that is indicative of this, or do you think it's a little close to 50-50?
I would say it's probably more like 55 to WE and then 45 to Cloud9.
Well, we'll see. I kind of feel the same. I personally feel that WE may have the edge in terms of the individual ability, but I do know that Cloud9's map awareness and map play is absolutely stellar. So let's talk picks and bans. We've already highlighted the Renekton for the top lane. We've already discussed the likes of Elise, Lee Sin in the jungle. What other picks are we going to be seeing? Hi, you've already talked about assassins. Is it going to be farm versus assassin?
I think we're going to see Lulu contested for sure as one of the top picks. Heiselblanc, I'm not the biggest fan of Heiselblanc. I think he's stellar on a lot of champions, and LeBlanc works well for them, but I see him slipping up like minor mistakes here and there, so I'm not the biggest fan of him and LeBlanc. I'd like to see him Lulu. His Kha'Zix and Zed have been working wonders for their team as well. While all these picks are interesting, and I think one side maybe gets Sivir as well, it's just going to boil down to team play for me. It's going to be really interesting how they react to each other. I think both teams will get a suitable lineup. They're pretty good at drafting. They will get a lineup that is coherent, works well together, but then they need to play that lineup and identify what the weaknesses are in the opponent's team, and that's where we'll see one team shine and one probably crumble.
Like, if they actually go for LeBlanc, I would actually love to see a 6 ban, because if the WE is lane swapping, then 6 will beat LeBlanc 1-on-1 in mid. The reason why you usually see a 6 play passive versus LeBlanc is because the ganks coming in together with the LeBlanc, you have the silence, you have the snare, even the slow from before the snare hits is like incredibly good to gank with. You have the W as a gap closer. If you get counter ganked, you can always W back. So LeBlanc is working really well in 2 versus 2 situations. However, in 1-on-1 situations, she's not as strong as 6. So 6 might actually poke her out of lane early if we see a lane swap, because there's no jungle pressure.
Well, we'll have to see if the champions actually get locked in and works out that way. We are a couple minutes away from heading over to the stage. Fortunately, there's another small delay. The winner of this game will, of course, be taking on the Taipei Assassins. The loser will be playing their match tomorrow. Unfortunately, we have moved that loser's game to tomorrow at 12 o'clock. So let's talk very briefly about what do these teams do considering they have this match tomorrow. Do you think it's in the back of their minds going into this, or do you just try your best to push it away and say, like, let's focus on the game at hand?
If you know you have another match coming up, generally you have a lot more breathing room, so you know you can make one mistake and still bounce back from it. Sure, TPA looked really strong and Gambit looked rather weak, but I know for a fact that Gambit tomorrow is going to be a different Gambit, like, showing up. I passed them moving out of the building earlier, and they were not too pleased with themselves. And Gambit, sure, they'll sulk for a bit, but then they'll work hard and they'll come back even more hungry to win this. So either team they face, win or lose, is still going to be a struggle, I feel.
Yeah, I feel the same, definitely. Like, Gambit, we know, like, some days they can be weak, other days they're like showing absolute, like, perfect performance. So,
well, let's talk a little bit about that game. Unfortunately, we do have a slightly longer delay than we were anticipating. So Gambit, they already fell to TPA. We broke the game down quite extensively, and I know you were trying to get as much in there at the end of the match as possible, Crepo. What was your opinion on Gambit's performance? Because Taipei Assassins, they had, it seemed to be individual better plays. They made fantastic rotations and roams for towers in the mid lane and constantly found kills. What was Gambit doing wrong? What could they have changed that game, from your perspective?
If I look back at the game and I have to make a key moment, I feel Diamond's first gank didn't put any pressure down. He roamed around top lane, hid in the brush, but TPA, again, their game rate was really solid. They almost, like, sensed where Diamond was every time. They even placed a ward in the brush. Not sure if it spotted him, but it actually meant that he backed off. So if Diamond could have gotten a kill there or a chunk or some lead, they would have capitalized on that. And the second biggest flaw is the Carter's pick into Ziggs just going into the situation they ended up being and just didn't work out. Ziggs 1v1'd him during the entire laning phase with barring almost none pressure from the junglers, and he went to town on Alexish, and Alexish fell down once, ended up building a tier, came back to lane with not much HP, got blown up again, and Alex tried to scale back into this game and good ultis. And what I really liked from Gambit, though, is the way they went about these fights. They identified Eve needs to flank. They identified even Genja needed to flank at one point down these team fights. And you saw they were close, but then every time Morning would just show up, drop a couple bombs on them, and it was over again.
Especially for the early game, I feel like because 6 had the Ignite instead of the barrier, when both mid laners hit level 4, the wave on the mid was basically reset. They hit each other at the same time. Diamond could have timed that gank, because that's actually the time Alex died. If Diamond was around to help him out a bit, because he would have his wall at level 4, it would basically have been a free kill onto 6. Alex might even have survived, because he still had his flash up when he died. But he didn't want to use it, because he thought he might die anyway.
So I want to pick your brain about that Karthus pick. I'm taking a look at the pick spans. Karthus was the last pick. LeBlanc was available. Lulu was banned out. The other mid laners included, of course, the Gragas was taken away. Renekton was taken away by Taipei Assassins. Would you have considered a LeBlanc? Would you have considered a different pick for that matchup? It's something that I always like to talk about when you have that slightly different pick. Would things have gone differently in your mind as a mid laner if it was a different champion?
Honestly, I feel like the Karthus pick was perfect. It's only, like, on Karthus, if you fall behind, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna struggle no matter what. They had Evelynn, automatically puts pressure on the map just by being there. But if the other mid laner keeps going aggressive on you, he needs to know it, and he needs to come and gank to relieve some of that pressure. Because Karthus pick, it's extremely good against Sivir. With Sivir ultimate, you pop it, you have insane movement speed, Karthus wall pops down, it's like 40% slow, just the level 1. It scales all the way up to 80%. It's insanely good counter against Sivir. And even then, they have Lee Sin on top lane. He needs to be in people's face to actually bring the utility, maybe even kick Karthus away if it comes to a team fight. But even then, it's like Katowice is such a strong pick. The only guy he couldn't get to in team fights would be the 6.
Yeah. However, if you look back at the initial plan, Gambit wanted to lane swap this. I'm not sure if they predicted the lane swap coming out of TP and then matched it. And then the rationale would be good. If we follow that rationale that Katowice needs a little help from Eve to survive that lane. But if they ended up lane swapping on purpose, imagine that. Then it's going to lock up Eve for the first 1 to 4 or 5 levels, which makes that a 1v1 again, and then Ziggs would have the advantage. What I've seen working well in NALCS, and I know we can't take that as an example, but let's just theoretically say we can. That's been these assassins like Kha'Zix and Zed have been working really well against the likes of Ziggs. They put pressure on him, and they can eventually look for the dive and force Ziggs to at least but use a barrier.
So we are about ready on stage. Before we throw it over to Shox to introduce the teams, I want to get your predictions. Cloud9 or Team WE? Crepo, apple pie or not?
Do I go for the pie? Let's go with apple pie. Cloud9, why not?
So, Cloud9, Froggen?
I have to go with WE then.
So we have a split. We'll see who is going to come out on top. Shox, please do introduce the teams. I'm very much looking forward to this game.
Thank you very much. Quick shot. And is it time to meet the teams? And we're going to start off on the blue side. Of course, it is the last LCS hope, say in that upper bracket. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for a North American powerhouse, Cloud9. And then on the red side, they were the winners of the Intel Extreme Masters in Shanghai. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Team WE. We have finally met our two teams, so it is time to get down to action. Casters, take it away.
Thank you very much, Shox. I am Lee D-Man Smith, and alongside me this time around is the Fishy Bro.
The Fishy Bro.
The Fishy Bro. Well, I give up saying Lunga.
Yeah, no, I like the other name better.
It never works out for me. It never works out for me. So, Cloud9 up against WE. North America's hopes are all in a basket right now, up against the Chinese powerhouse Team WE, who we've seen stormed through tournaments before. IPL 5, they dominated, but it's a very different animal since then. And WE still have that powerhouse of AD carry. Wei Zhao, he's still there. Cao Mei's still in that top lane. I'm excited for this game. You may be able to tell.
Well, yeah, I can tell a little bit. I'm actually as well because Team W in the LPL, very strong the first few weeks, but actually lost 2 games here in the last week they played. So we need to see them bounce back.
They also won
in
one.
Here.
They played 3 games in that last
They won the first
week,
one and they lost the last 2 games they actually played.
Get the VOD for the last one for some reason.
Well, the point is, they lost 2 games. I want to see them bounce back here. I want to see them come in here really hungry to show as well that IG is not the only strong team from China, and they can do the same.
So they're bouncing back from the win.
No, they lost the last 2 games.
No, the final game was a win. Absolutely. Go check it. Get over to League Media.
They lost the first 2 games then in the last
They played
week.
3 and then they came out 2-0.
Same.
Yeah. You got to keep it going, man. Got to keep it going. So, what do we make? Cloud9 coming into this one. We've heard what the analysts have to say. You've obviously been on there yourself. We've got apple pie coming out of Crepo. Meanwhile, Froggen is all about Team WE. Picks and Mans are going to be getting underway in just a few moments. We're waiting, of course, for everybody to get themselves sorted out, which we've been doing all day long.
Yeah, I feel Cloud9 will be having, or could be having, the same issues the European team have been having with the laning phase. WE is a very strong early game team, much like IG, much like the general Chinese meta. A lot of focus on early ganks, early dives, a lot of pressure there. So Cloud9 really needs to make sure they have a strong combo early on and need to make sure they don't fall too far behind in the laning phase, just like the European teams have.
Forever the support there, WE, helping him with his armrest. I'm not sure if it's helping him or trolling him. I'm not too sure which it is. We see Hai here. He is one of the top NA junglers. Mid laners, of course. And he is probably the only person that actually does keep Bjergsen in check, I would say, in North America. How's he going to work out against Sukim? Sukim is one of these new players we've seen coming into WE, but he is very aggressive.
Sukim is very aggressive. He plays to win the lane. Even 1v1, Yes, sometimes he overextends, gets ganked, but still, he's very, very aggressive. He's very mechanically strong. And he's playing some lane bully champions. He's been pulling out Syndra quite a lot, actually, in the LPL. Very mixed success for him because the junglers often come in there and kill him, and he's just going straight for the kills. But generally, he's very, very hard to deal with. And I fear that if Hai is not careful, or if he's picking a very weak matchup for him, he will have issues, just like we saw Alex against Morning in the last game. So we need to see Hai pick up a strong laner here. And we know he's a good laner, because Bjergsen is also saying, like, he's the guy in NA that he's actually learning from when he's playing against him.
Absolutely, and of course, they touched on Meteos earlier on. He's going to be in that jungle up against, we believe it's Ruo. We're not too sure on the pronunciation. Ruo, R-U-O, could be Ruo. We'll see how that one goes. WX, of course, is Wei Zhao. Once you get to see him, that's going to be his tag in the game. Has been around a very long time, and he's going to be up against that man on your screen right there, Sneaky. How is this AD carry matchup going to go? And more to the point, will they be switching lanes? Because that's something often we see from the Chinese teams.
I think there's a very high chance of a 2v1 at least. I think, actually, like they said on the analyst desk, it could favor Cloud9 because it makes the early game easier for them to handle, and then they can get into mid-game where the rotations for Cloud9 are very strong. And it's actually been one of the issues for Team WE when they're actually losing games. It's because they get out of laning phase, they're not ahead, and then they don't really know what to do to try and get back in the game. It's been an issue for them. If Cloud9 can get into this situation where they go through the laning phase, get to mid-game, can start rotating, good vision control, get a few picks on the very aggressive Team WE, I think actually Cloud9 will have a chance, but it all boils down to this very early stage of the game, and also, of course, teamfight coordination between Cloud9 and Team WE. We need to see who's the best.
And these two top laners, if they do end up being in the 2v1s, I mean, Sao Mei has been around for as long as I can remember for WE and has literally been there, done that. Meanwhile, Balls, although being very tiny for Cloud9, we saw his muscly physique showing on the other day on the LCS, but you know, he tends to go with the likes of Rumble, which actually do okay in the 2v1s, but how do we see him being put into this situation? Because this is actually the first time Cloud9 have played someone outside of Europe, because obviously the only competition they've ever met was being Fnatic in the international competition. That's the only team they've ever faced. Tell a lie, they played Gambit also at Intel Extreme Masters Cologne. Didn't go well for them there, gotta be honest. But this is the first time they're meeting Asian competition.
Yeah, and Balls, for me, he's an underrated player actually. Every time I see him play in the NALCS, he's always doing well. I rarely see him actually lose his lane. But going up against a monster of a top laner, he really needs to pull his weight here, because Renekton, if it's banned away, he has to fall back on something like a Shyvana. We've seen him play it before. Rumble would be a risky pick in the 1v1 scenario, unless it's more or less a counter pick for him. So I could see high priority on Renekton, or falling back to something like Shyvana, maybe even a Trundle, to make sure he can do well in the laning phase.
And we already saw it with IG, with the likes of PDD in that top lane.
Yeah.
For the Chinese meta, those top laners, those tanky top laners, it is perfect for them. That's what they play. It's what they played in Season 2, in Season 3, and now in the 2014 season.
And everything they do, from the early game to the mid game to the late game, is built around these bruises. And that's what they love. They love to dive. That's why you want your tank in there, taking all the turret damage while the rest of your team pile onto them. And you also love the fact that you can start objectives early on. You can start Barons. You don't have to worry about a squishy guy tanking this Baron, because you have these tanky tanky top laners that they absolutely love to play. And also the junglers for them, we often see them go very tanky as well. So they have this very strong front line going into the team fights, and then the rest of the team can just follow up and pile onto the enemy team.
Well, we're waiting for WE to get themselves in the game. Cloud9 are ready and waiting to go. North American team being drilled by those North American Riot admins, so they react very quickly when told what to do. Interested to see a couple of the tags once they always come into this one. A couple of Cloud9. There's the Deficio side, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic stuff. Not bad.
Not bad. It is really well made, and I was very surprised when I actually saw it.
Yeah, that definitely caught you off guard this morning.
Yeah, it did. It did. Well played.
Well played to them. And as I was saying, Meteos coming into the one with the KT Rolls to be sign on him. He's favouring the Koreans for this tournament, it seems, and he's not one of the only ones. KT Rolls to be coming into this one pretty much low at the moment, but they have performed very well at this event.
They have been doing so well. Okay, the game against IG, they actually had issues, but then IG, with some very questionable decisions, actually gave it back to KT Bullets and they managed to win the game. We need to see what KT Bullets can do against the likes of TPA, possibly tomorrow in the semifinals, to see how it actually, or how strong they actually are. Because, yeah, people have been talking about KT Bulls being in a slump, lost the games at Masters. Yeah, we've seen them now 2 games. One was a very easy win over Millennium, but the IG won, big troubles. So we need to actually see against a very strong team how good they are.
Yeah, they are, of course, the only team so far in the semi-finals as it stands. IG will be facing Fnatic. That will be tomorrow morning, as well as the loser bracket game of this. We will be having the winner bracket game following this matchup. That will be up against Taipei Assassins, who have been fantastic.
Absolutely.
You can see Dave at the moment is sat there as the jungler for Team WE, which does tell us there is a few issues right now, because I don't fancy he's going to be playing this game, and nor does Ruo just off at the side. So we're just going to pass back over towards our analysis desk to take us through while these problems are being fixed. So Trevor, over to you.
And welcome back for another time at the analyst desk here with myself, Crepo, and Froggen. Before we get a little bit more into the game and what these teams can do, I want to bring something up with you guys that maybe you can give some insight. Actually, probably can give some of the best insight into fatigue, mental drain, tiredness. I mean, this has been a long day from these guys. They haven't even played a game yet. Team WE famously against yourselves back in Season 2 took, what was it, 5 days to finish the semi-final matchup, if memory serves. So
and lose.
And ended up, of course. So talk to me a little bit now about what you guys do as a player when it's now getting 7, 8 p.m. You've been watching all the games from 10 o'clock in the morning. How do you deal with it?
So it's more about what you actually do as a team than what you're doing as a player. Because I remember us as a team. We were like talking to the audio guys. We were like, please put Eye of the Tiger on. Let us sing to this. It's awesome. Like being at world stage and like it's like sun is shining, everything is perfect, and you're just like singing Eye of the Tiger while there's delays.
I mean, you have to realize what happened there. So you're sitting there playing probably the most important match in your career. Win or lose, the difference is $75,000, which back then, and actually still is, quite a big chunk of money. And then the delays happen, game after game after game, and you give in to the delirium almost, and you start talking, because you know somebody's listening into these headsets. And I think we call him Josh. You're like, Josh, audio guy, how are you doing today? And we kept talking. Eventually, dude showed up. Name wasn't Josh, but actually, we had a bond, and then we asked for Eye of the Tiger in our headsets, and he played it, and we were doing karaoke, and we even had a little My Heart Will Go On, very sensitive moment shared by CLGU. So we kept our team spirit up, and then we looked over to World Elite, and they were just sitting there like,
yeah,
I want to die. And that just the mental agility, you need that. You need to stay awake, stay focused, stay happy, and get ready to play anytime.
So that particular match took 5 days to play out, and we're not proud of this fact, but last year there's a number of European LCS teams that also had to deal with these fatigue problems and delays, and it is a nature of the beast. Team WE sitting down, Cloud9 maybe not necessarily used to this big stage. If you think of Cloud9 as a team, they don't have much international big stadium event experience. Do you think this is going to play on them maybe a little more than WE?
I was going to say they might be jet lagged, but actually they did the right thing coming out a couple days earlier, like a week earlier, and they boot camped in Warsaw, I believe. So I hope they're not jet lagged. I hope they had enough sleep this morning, and I hope they're ready to get into it's going to be a pretty exciting game.
So am I. Sorry to cut you off, Froggen. We do have all 10 players in the lobby. We are hoping and praying that Picks and Bands will kick this one off. So let's go back over to D&D. D-Man and Deficio, take it away.
Thank you very much, guys. And talking about that WE game, it cast me back because, oddly enough, I had to go through it all while they were singing away to themselves. I was having to entertain you guys that were listening at home. Here we go. Picks and Bands are getting underway in just a few moments. We're just waiting for the team to click start. It will be Cloud9 starting things off. They are the blue team, of course, and WE are the red team. What do we expect from Picks and Bands?
Well, again, Renekton have to be a high priority pick. Lulu, of course. We've seen a lot of Ziggs this tournament doing really well. Rengar, of course, could be a potential ban if you don't want to deal against this very hard to, top lane Rengar, which can be so annoying to play against. But Lucian actually being the first ban, so they want to make sure Wei Xiao doesn't have his favorite AD carry, and want to try and maybe shut him down early with a possible AD carry pick as well.
Well, Lucian and Thresh have been taking away out the most popular picks in the European LCS, but who the hell cares about that? Because this is America versus China right now. Elise and Lulu being banned out by WE.
So like the Elise ban, you want to target Meteors a little bit, make sure he doesn't have the early game impact we know he can have. And that's also WE just saying, we want to win early game. We want to make sure your jungler, we can keep him down, because Meteors is a great jungler.
Yeah.
We know he can carry on Elise. And of course the Lulu pick, we've seen it time and time again, how strong mid Lulu is.
Lee Sin being taken away. Don't want to let Ruo on that one. That's a good bit of research because it is a champion he's been playing a lot of. And actually now I think back to it, Thresh has been played by Conan almost consistently.
It's been his main support. We haven't actually seen too many good Thresh players, at least to date. They hasn't really been working for people, but still, it's always a good champion to have. And with a player like Conan, he can make plays on it. And Kassadin actually being the last player here, so WE don't want to take the chance against it. Could be because Cloud9 actually played it in the Super Week.
They did, and then they actually said it wasn't very good.
Yeah, but maybe they didn't see that.
But something they have absolutely played is Kha'Zix, high on Kha'Zix. It could also be Meteos, because Meteos has been playing Kha'Zix as well. So that's immediately leaving it open. But speaking of leaving things open, they left Renekton open, and that is the #1 pick for China.
Renekton and also Caitlyn.
Yes.
So you have two of the strongest laners in each individual lane. Yes, okay, you got Kha'Zix possibly onto high if it's in the mid lane you want it, but you're just giving up so good laners for WE. And they will use this. They will try to really win the early game with this. They can also lane swap. Renekton is very good in 1v2. It's very hard to dive. And also Caitlyn is having so much siege potential onto the turrets, and she's so safe as well.
Well, Rengar we saw as the #1 pick during the Season 3 World Championships, and it has been argued that North America and Europe both don't really know how to properly use Rengar, keep that pressure going, which the Chinese and Korean team absolutely do.
It's a unique playstyle they use, especially in China, where they focus more on actually roaming with the Rengar and set up kills elsewhere than just staying in your lane and pushing it out and winning 1v1, which is what most European NA top laners do. They focus on winning the lane, pushing it down, apply pressure that way. China, they will roam around.
Well, we see our first Morgana of the day, something we expected to see very early on, but this is the first time it's been picked. It's going to be for Elimination, and of course that also means Gragas will be selected for high.
So a little bit surprised they early pick Morgana before they see the support from WE, but obviously they want to try and counter some hard engage from them. Annie and Leona. Annie versus Morgana, I like it on Annie's side here, so it can be risky for them, but at least they pretty much sure they want Morgana here. They want to try and stop some early aggression or some aggression from WE. And of course you have Gragas with the ultimate to also, you know, more or less reset team fights. If they don't want the team fight, they can just pop the ultimate and then disengage back.
Well, we've seen Yasuo this morning from the Chinese. It was Zitai that played it, but there's no knockups to go alongside him this time around. Annie also being locked in.
Yeah, so I don't actually have anything to go with it. I've seen Yasuo jungle beforehand. It could potentially be jungle-wise. I think we actually have to touch on with Gragas here. Okay, Shyvana got locked in. Never mind, I was about to say it could have been top lane Gragas. Balls have been playing it in scrims, I know for a fact. And he's been liking it quite a lot, but it's going to be Shyvana top lane, of course. And then it's actually going to be Kha'Zix jungle for Meteos. We've seen it 2 times already today. Been working okay.
Well,
and then not really.
Insect did pretty well with it.
Insect did okay early game, but then when it got to team fights, he got caught out a lot of times. He couldn't really get the resets he wanted to, and actually ended up giving up a lot of kills. And also for Aeneas, it didn't work at all, the Kha'Zix jungle.
And the Wukong was the final pick. Makes complete sense. It means it is going to be the knockup. Yasuo in that mid lane. That is all he needs to pounce on.
Definitely. It's all, you just want to go and engage with Wukong. Yasuo follows up and you dive towards the backline here. You have the Tibbers from Annie. You have Renekton obviously dashing in. And then you have Caitlyn, the most safe AD carry, to just stay in the back and more or less be herself. Try and survive for as long as possible while the rest of WE just piles onto the backline of Cloud9.
Well, yeah. Very quick picks and bans, and this is actually something that Cloud9 always do. This is why I love watching them in North America, because they lock them champions in quick. They knew exactly what they wanted to do, and WE doing the same. No trolling from the teams. I love that. Edward, take note.
Well, Cloud9, for a fact, I know they have an analyst who's doing a lot of work with the team when it comes to pick and bans. So they always have something prepared. This time around, they knew they wanted the Sivir, of course. They wanted the Morgana. They picked it early on. So they have this bot lane where if you land a binding, you can follow up with a boomerang blade from Sivir. It's a lot of damage early on. And then, of course, with Gragas, with the likes of Morgana to counter-engage, they can stop the fights if they don't want to fight them here when Wukong actually goes in and cyclones around them.
And do not fear, ladies and gentlemen, it is Meteos in the jungle. I know a lot of people are fearful that he may have lost his mojo, his power, with those blonde highlights being removed from his hair, but it is still him. I did speak to him this morning. I can confirm it is still Meteos.
It is still Meteos. That's good.
He is going to be playing on Mecha Kha'Zix. We'll see how that works out for them. Who do we expect here? We saw, of course, earlier on, it was Mitch went with Apple Pie.
Apple Pie.
Froggen went with China.
Looking at the picks, I would give it to WE. I really like the early game. Very strong lanes they have. Yasuo against Gragas is a good lane for Yasuo. We have Renekton top lane, who's very dominant. He will be able to pressure Shyvana a lot early game. And then, of course, you have Annie and Caitlyn bot. So much poke, so much damage you have early on. You can apply on to Cloud9. And he's going to rely a lot on Cloud9 now, doing very strong individual plays. And also Meteors on Kha'Zix. He can gank, he has quite some damage, but he doesn't bring too much. He doesn't bring any CC when he goes in, so it's hard for him to set something up early on, and that can be an issue for them.
Well, we've seen a lot of jungle invades, a lot of switching around with lanes, but as of yet, it seems that it may well be a standard start for these two teams. We can see, of course, at the moment, Hai Tell a Lie is down the bottom.
There's, of course, one thing we have to highlight. When we look at the combos, we have more or less full physical damage lineup for WE. You have Renekton, you have Wukong, Yasuo, and Caitlyn. So if Cloud9 can get to late game, if they can start stacking up the armor, make sure they can avoid a lot of the damage of World Elite, we can have some very close team fights.
So what do we make of this? They're going to go for a 2v1 mid lane combo. So they're going to try and shut down that Yasuo while we see Hai. He's going to go down that bottom and in that 2v1 combo. But it seems that WE may try and rotate on this one.
Yeah, if they can actually spot them out, they will be able to go to mid if that's what they want to do. But Yasuo should be able to farm fairly well on the turret. And now actually Elimination. Can he catch him? Nope.
Dark Binding does not land. Conan holds the stun. And you see that Spellthief's edge. Oh, they're going to go on towards Wei Xiao, forcing the flash very early on out of Wei Xiao. That's a good play from Cloud9.
So the early body slam picked up by Hai here meant he could force away the flash. Very good play, and now they're actually moving to bot here, so they want to do standard lanes. No flash onto Wei Xiao. We could see possibly Meteors moving down early on, try an early gank, and then get Cloud9 ahead.
But Ruo's going for the invade here, a late invade. And I'm not too sure whether he's going to get countered out here. We can see the Meteos. He's gone for the red buff himself. So we'll see whether Ruo's managed to steal himself a mark, but the Meteos was ready and waiting for this one. As it stands, he is taking his red buff and completely unaware of this one. No help from either jungler either, so they're all on their own. Mid lane is also getting a lot of aggression. Sukin being very aggressive on Hai early on. Of course, he took that body slam. We saw it, which means he's going to have to be very careful against a melee champion.
And the thing to note, actually, Cloud9 didn't have any vision of Wukong going in towards the blue buff here. So we actually see Meteors going out there because he thinks it up. The only thing he knows is that, or he actually thought that Wukong started red buff because they have a ward at the enemy blue buff. They didn't see him there. So now he's coming in there. No blue buff. It means 3 early buffs to WE.
Yeah, it means he's going to be in all sorts of trouble in that jungle. It's a good start for Ruo. Good counter play. And honestly, he's not in any position to deal with it either. You can see, unless he goes rushing for that blue buff in a counter, which is very, very dangerous style, don't expect him to go for that.
But also look here, starting items up in the top lane. Shyvana, Dorian Shield have to play passive early on. Renekton, on the other hand, Dorian's Blade. He's just straight up. He wants to fight. He wants to push the lane down constantly. We could see Wukong moving up there later, trying to dive balls if they push him all the way down to the turret and he drops low.
Bottom lane, we're also seeing the aggression. Wei Xiao and Conan pushing, pressuring up Sneaky and Elimination with that Morgana. Something we expected to see a lot of Morgana this weekend. 4.3 is a big patch for Morgana. A lot of teams have been playing it in scrims, but as of yet, this is the first time we're seeing it.
Yeah, and the trick you can do with Morgana and the Spell Thief edge that he's starting with is when you put down your W, like we see here actually, it procs really, really fast. Every half second, and it counts for your Spell Thief. So you get the gold, you also get the additional damage onto them, so you have a lot of poke in the lane with Morgana early on, and that's very, very strong. And the funny thing is, Korea and China, they don't like Morgana at all. Nope. They don't play it at all. It's only Europe and NA, so we'll see how much they can actually do with it.
Dark Binding not landing, and they straight away turn that aggression back on towards Elimination. So quick throwing out Dark Binding. And this is something they've talked about. This is what they argue. The fact that Dark Binding can be dodged easily. It's an easy skill shot because it's slow moving.
Yeah, but then again, you bring your ultimate when it gets to team fights. Laning wise, if you miss your Dark Binding, you are open for harass, but that's where the Spell Thief with your W now, when you put it on both people, you can actually get quite some good damage in. They might be going for a fight here.
Meteos coming around the side. He's going to try and go towards him. It's Conan they're focusing on so far. He jumps on towards Wei Xiao. Remember, Wei Xiao does not have that. Will he get him? No! Doesn't manage to get it. Wow! Boomerang Blade rattling through him. But Wei Xiao survives.
So the barrier for Wei Xiao was still up. He used the flash early on. That's why Meteos came down here early for the gank. But barrier was still ready, and it made him survive.
Hai going very aggressive on Sukim there. You can see he's got himself a level advantage so far. Sukim's going to hit level 5 any second now, but this is good pressure coming out from Hai in that mid lane.
Hai's actually doing a very good job with this Gragas. He needs to be careful. He already used Body Slam.
He already used Body Slam, has to flash out of it. That's a bit of a mistake by Hai, just as I sing his praise.
Well, Flash gone for him now, so he needs to be careful. Once we have level 6 onto Wukong, level 6 onto Sukim on Yasuo, you can set up some very strong ganks because Wukong goes in, pops the ultimate, and you just instantly jump with Yasuo and just pile a lot of damage onto them. So he needs to be careful now, but still, Body Slam is a good way to escape even without the flash.
You know, Meteos is doing a great job considering he had his blue taken away from him. He's keeping up the farm. He's just a little bit behind Ruo, but you can see in levels, but you can see in terms of farm, he's kept up there. Elimination warding out that dragon, and again, going back towards the bottom lane. Both AD carries picking up the Vampiric Scepter.
So they both on Danger Statement. Oh, Wei Xiao.
Damage on Wei Xiao is not going to quite be enough. He doesn't have barrier or flash now, and he is very low in lane. They're going to fancy pushing this one.
And Cloud9 have been doing a very good job of shutting him down early. First with the flash, forced away, and then Meteos with the first gank, and now good binding from Elimination, followed up by Sneaky's damage. Doing a very good job of trying to shut him down.
Ball's having a good trade with Sao Mei in that top lane as well. Sao Mei has gone back, got himself that pickaxe early on. Here comes Ruo. This is what they needed. They needed a little bit of respite because Sneaky and Elimination are doing a number on Wei Xiao so far. Again, Boomerang Blade lashes through Wei Xiao. Dart Binding landing on Ruo. They're trying to keep that aggression away, but Cloud9 are doing a great job in lane.
Yeah, Elimination has been on fire with the bindings here. He's landing so many of them. One more coming in here. Wei Xiao has the net way to actually stay alive.
So, pressure from Cloud9 early on, seemingly working out, despite the fact Ruo did invade the jungle early on of Meteos. Meteos keeping himself very relevant in this one, has just backed off, and now he's on a bit of an invade of his own.
The thing is, he doesn't have the timer on this red buff because he didn't actually know when Wukong did it, because Wukong started his own blue, but now two people rotating top here. Level 6 Renekton though, it's very hard to gank him.
But Meteos and higher there, the damage is available, there is explosive cask if they're going to go for it. Sao Mei realizing the danger, there's only 3 minions, it's a small wave. Dominus being popped already, jumping on towards him, Meteos not catching the claw on. He will get the kill, first blood goes to Bolt, and that was nicely done.
Very nice gank from Cloud9. Sao Mei, he knew they were there, he popped the ultimate beforehand, but still they managed to come in with 3 people and get the kill. So good play by Cloud9. Very aggressive early start.
Sukim putting pressure on towards that turret. Meanwhile, in that mid lane, and now looking to try and catch on towards Balls. He knows that ultimate is down, and he quickly gets vision of them as he returns to lane. Not going to go aggressive, though.
And absolutely perfect. Actually, Shyvana picks up the first blood here. Will help her a lot in the 1v1 against Renekton. We know Shyvana will outscale Renekton later on in the game, so everything he can get here early on will help him and will also help Cloud9. Because once Balls can actually 1v1 Renekton, he will be able to have all the pressure in the lane.
So, blue buff is gonna get taken by High there. I was just waiting, couldn't quite see the barrel being planted. Meteos, we'll keep our eye on Meteos, see which way he levels this one actually, because we did see the ultimate being leveled, being evolved by Insect earlier on as his first. It is gonna be the E, the wings.
Yeah, so he will be able to get resets in the team fights if someone dies actually, so that's good for him. If we look here at Yasuo, we actually have a Vampiric Scepter as the first item for some sustain. Normally you see the early static shift, so you have this upfront burst early on, but he won't have it this time around. He's delaying it a little bit, but now Wukong closing in. There is a ward though, so Sports will spot him out.
Yeah, Dragon Descent also available. Just going to use that burnout to run away and actually stand and stare at Ruo, saying, yeah, you dare come to my top lane, I'll keep you at bay. Mid lane, we still see Sukim. He has started to develop a bit of a CS advantage over High because he went for that roam. Didn't get the kill, only got the assist. Sukim, at the moment, has himself a small advantage.
And he should be able to just keep farming here, but High will also be able to wave clear. The more levels you get on Gragas, the better yard wave clearing. And also with the blue buff, he can just constantly put up the barrels, clear the waves. Down bot lane though, the fact that Sneak is actually ahead in CS is very impressive. Him and Elimination together, and with the gang from Meteos, has been doing a very good job of pressuring Wei Xiao because he didn't have the flash early.
Looks like Ruo is going to be taking the blue buff for himself. That's not going to be gifted across to Sukim, so we'll see if he makes use of that refresh on the Cyclone, which is available. I'm expecting this bottom lane gank may well be coming shortly.
And if he can actually sneak down there's no ward in the bushes, so if he can actually get in range, he will be able to at least follow up for Tibbers. But once again, binding, the Tormented Soil, and then the Boomerang Blade from Sneaky.
Yeah, and half the hit points shredded off him. He does have Flash and Barrier back available to him, though, Wei Xiao, and he will continue that farm. And like you said, Sneaky, keep it up in farm. Silver against Caitlyn is impressive on its own. The fact that it's Wei Xiao is even more impressive.
Yeah, Caitlyn normally is the pick you want to have against Sivir lane because you have such a long range advantage that you can just constantly poke her away. But they've just been doing a very good job. And again, credit to Elimination this Morgana, landing so many bindings.
Sukim maybe trying to be baited in here. Instead, it's the top lane that it seems that Meteos is heading for. Going to be looking towards that red buff. You can see Sukim now keeping that farm at high. Starting to respect him a little bit here. He knows the damage that Yasuo has, but Meteos, he's looking to go. Dominus already used on the tower.
So we will see actually if Samei decides to back off. Once he sees Meteos, he's actually staying for now. They can go for this one.
They're going to wait on this one. Dragon Descent is available. They need the minions there. Ruo does react to this one. Meteos shows himself a little early. Hai and Sukim still continuing to just bounce back and forward in that mid lane. Still the big advantage for Sukim in terms of farm, and he's still continuing to get that aggression on Hai, using that wind wall to make sure no barrels roll towards him.
Yeah, look how fast he puts it in. And when he puts it right in front of Gragas, he actually stops the ultimate as well, because he will fly into the wall and gets completely just destroyed. So there's no chance here for Hai to actually do anything back to him and knock him into the turret or anything. We need to see some aggression from Wukong though. He's level 7. We haven't actually seen a gank, despite him having his ultimate and having so strong ganks now.
And this is actually a reverse of what we're used to seeing from WE. They tend to go crazy aggression. Doesn't always happen from objective control either. They tend to just pile in for them kills. We saw it with IG earlier on. Meteos is going to flash away from this one, uses that ultimate to get that invisibility, hasn't leveled it up yet. Sukim's going to flash for this one, he's going to go deep, he will get the kill, the Ignite's going to run, it's an easy kill. Sukim now, oh, Windwall's not going to work out, and Hai comes in, straight counter, explosive cast, finishes the deal.
So Sukim actually couldn't pop his ultimate onto Meteos because of his stealth. He popped in when he got knocked up there, so very good play by him, and it simply meant that Sukim had to dive in, Hai could come in for the revenge kill, and now Cloud9 picking up a kill. Yes, they lost Meteos, but Hai now got an early kill, and it's very good for him.
Barrel landing on Ruo as well, forces him away from this one. Dragon, a potential here. Meteos is back alive and heading straight towards it. Ruo's going to take them wolves to try and get some of that lifesteal back. It seems that Cloud9 won't go for this one. Balls has had a bit of a trade with Cao Mei in this top lane. Cao Mei has just returned from Bayern, which is why he's been very healthy. Neither are making a move towards this Dragon, which is got Lemonation clearing the pink wards.
As a Lemonation getting a little bit of vision control here for Cloud9. There's still 2 wards left though from WE, so they need to clear them out if they want to go for this Dragon. Otherwise, WE will be able to react, come in there, join the fight, and then it can be very scary against this very strong combo at the moment for WE with Wukong, of course, with Renekton, and also Yasuo, despite him actually needing a few items and delaying. Again, he's a little bit behind in items compared to normally when you see the early static shift.
Cao Mei continuing to bully Balls in his top lane. Using Dominus against that Dragon Descent. Both are about to wear out, but Balls is sticking around here. This is dangerous, dangerous play against Cao Mei, who is fully stacked and ready to go.
But look who's moving up here. Hai is coming up from base. They might want to try and bait Cao Mei to actually dive Balls, and then Hai is there, joins in and picks off the kill onto him.
He takes the bait, but is it too early? I think it is. Balls is going to go down, and now, well, Hai comes in, but I don't think he's got the damage. Explosive cast gone towards Cao Mei. Cao Mei is looking to get that slice and dice, waiting for the minions to come in. Hai has got him. He's got his number, but, well, Balls risked it a little too much.
And now 2 members from Cloud9 were up in the top lane. It means WE can move towards this Dragon. Pink ward clears out the ward from Cloud9. The vision is now gone, except for the ward they just put into the Dragon pit here, but should be a Dragon for WE, so they instantly react here. And the fact that Cloud9 lost Balls up in the top lane simply means WE wins out.
Instant objective control, but Hai's still pushing that top lane turret, so they may try and gain something back from it. Not too sure he's got the minions to take it this time around. He will have the next wave if he wants to stick around, which he's going to do. And we see Meteos, he's covering off that mid lane, so he's keeping Sukim away from that mid turret.
Meteos is doing really well in farming as well. Now with some solo XP, very good for him actually. He's going aggressive here.
Well, he's going to go aggressive. Has he got enough? I'm not too sure. Sukim does keep him at bay, and you can see Meteos had to put a lot into it. He actually counters Kha'Zix fairly hard. Of course, that force, I think it's called, is it the force of the wind or whatever the hell it is that builds up, just counters him quite hard.
And now, Hai moving actually back to mid lane. He took the top turret with the minions here, so very good move from him after getting the kill onto Renekton. Smart by him. They did lose the Dragon, however, but they have 500 gold ahead in this early game. And we talked about how strong WE are early on, so it's very good to see Cloud9 actually doing so well. And with this Morgana pick, when we get to team fights, if we can get some very good black shields from Elimination, making sure that a key target is not getting locked off with CC'd, Cloud9 might be able to turn it around and actually win the fights.
Quick win wall from Sukim, dashes away from that one, not letting Hai anywhere near him. This bottom lane, we haven't seen a great deal of it for a while, and actually has gone fairly quiet. Despite the early pressure Elimination was putting down, it's still kept fairly even between the two.
Very even, and that's just fine for Cloud9 because Sivir, you just want to get the early farm here against this Caitlyn, so very good, and going aggressive again.
Wei Zhao caught out, he's going down, finally they managed to get the kill on it. It's Elimination that actually picks it up. with the tormented soil. Irony.
But once again, the bot lane from Cloud9 are doing everything correct against Wei Xiao here. They punish him every single time, and now they even got a kill. Yes, onto elimination, but it's still a kill.
But in terms of difference between the two, I feel his gold must be quite considerably high. Yesterday, he's got almost 1,000 gold more because he got that spell thief's edge early on. He's been keeping that pressure on. We see that Conan has picked it up, but he's very late doing so. So he's not really going to benefit too much from it.
Actually, if I recall correctly, Conan started with the spell thief, but it's a lot easier for Morgana to get the stacks down because you just put down your tormented soil early, where Annie actually has to either use a spell or auto tag onto you to proc it.
Yeah, just looking at the difference between the two, it's almost 200 plus more gold that Elimination's picked up with that spell thief. So of course, he upgraded it as well, which is a 500 gold investment, which kind of levels itself out, actually.
And we actually need to see if Elimination wants to keep it or if she's going to sell it after the laning phase, upgrading to or buy a talisman instead, which benefits the team more with the utility, with the move speed, and also really helps him on Morgana. We need to see what he's doing with the item later.
Pressure on this mid lane turret, all of Cloud9 rotating in there. They're going to try and take it down as quick as possible. Meteor's tanking it out. Doesn't fancy it when 3 members of WE show up. We also see that Sao Mei is making his way down here. That's actually leaving Balls to just free farm in the top lane.
And for Balls, it's just a matter of time before he hits the point where he can kill Renekton. And WE didn't know this, so that's why they possibly could try and set something up here. They have a very good combo for fighting in the mid game. Very strong engage, a lot of CC and also a lot of damage. And of course Renekton, he's the best bruiser you can get in the mid game. So if they can set something up around the dragon or in the mid lane here, it would be very good for them.
This is very steady play from both these teams, and honestly, I feel it kind of falls into Cloud9's favor. I think they're finding themselves their feet here, feeling a little bit confident. We see the Zhonya's Hourglass now completed by High. Meanwhile, Static Chief only just been completed for Suki.
And that's the thing we have to remember. We talked about it back at level 1, how the WE lineup is full physical except for Annie. This simply means for Cloud9, as long as they can stack armor, the later they go into the game, the harder it is for WE to actually kill them. And that's also why we see the very early Zhonyas here, also to stop some of the damage from Yasuo if he should jump onto High.
That wind wall, we saw how effective it was earlier on in day 4 Invictus Gaming. Z-Type doing wonders with it, keeping... Actually was a Gragas at bay, it was a Peke's Gragas, and he's doing exactly the same thing. Dark Binding was blocked as well as the barrel.
And we see Meteors, he involved his ulti now is the second thing, so you want to take less damage when he pops it. And Cloud9, they just want to pressure this mid turret and they want to get it down.
Suki, aggressive defensive work there. Up against 3 members of Cloud9, they weren't quite expecting that, I feel. And High, little mana left. I feel may well back away from this one. The rest of Cloud9, we do see Meteors try and rotate around the side. May well look to go for a gang.
And if they can actually move up here with the minion wave, kill the turret, and then start the fight, it's very good for them. And we actually see Balls closing in here, attempting to go in behind maybe.
Cyclone Flash, but it's not going to work out too well for them. Lemination's going to pop that ultimate. Will he go down in time? No, he does proc off just in time. Gets the Dark Binding on towards Ruo. Reset comes in for Meteos, but it's going to be WE that follow through. Explosive Cask, forcing it Sneaky to be defensive. Balls trying to go aggressive on towards Wei Xiao. Wei Xiao taken so low. Balls is going huge right now. All over them. Suki managed to get taken down. He does get the knockup, but they have no follow through. There's going to be Sneaky doing all the damage from the backside. Balls still alive. Sneaky gets dived on. Sao Mei gets 1. Cannot get the second. High pops to Zhonya's Hourglass just at the critical time. And I believe it was a 3-for-1.
And such a risky engage by WE. Wukong pops his ultimate and then he flashes in. And it simply means they collapse onto elimination. The support used Yasuo ultimate, Wukong ultimate, onto elimination. The rest of Cloud9 is there and turns the fight around. Meteors, he gets the reset he wants and he can then continue going on. And also High, he managed to actually get out on very low HP, simply meaning the fight goes in favor here. Look here, they engage. Pops the ultimate from Wukong, flashes in then, and then they jump onto elimination. Tibbers on him, Yasuo ultimate is on him. He didn't even die in the first place. He actually go back in and kill him. Means there's that reset for Meteors. And meanwhile, Balls, he's just gonna come in here from the side, join in, straight 1v1ing Wei Xiao and just killing him instantly. The rest of Cloud9 can then come in here from behind. Only 2 members left, and the damage from Renekton is not high enough to actually do more than just pick up a kill here, then die.
And I feel if Meteors had come in just a split second earlier, you saw him jump and he didn't get involved, so he didn't get that reset on the jump. He may well have been able to jump on Sukim as well. Instead, still works out very well for Cloud9. They're starting out the Dragon. WE moving into position to try and counter.
This is what we talked about as well in the pregame at the analyst desk, how WE, once they don't win the laning phase, they have a hard time actually deciding what to do. They just gave up a free Dragon as well to Cloud9 here, and the team fight again. They engage very questionable onto elimination, pile all the damage onto the support, and didn't even kill him in the first place. So very risky play by them, very questionable play, and it could be actually the issue for WE. They don't know exactly what to do when they don't win early.
Actually what we saw Fnatic doing earlier on today as well, piling on towards that support, not really focusing on the right targets as it is WE. They're going to chase. This is what we've seen them do. You talked about it. Once they lose that aggression, they'll actually counter it with more aggression.
Yeah.
They'll go full on aggression. And sometimes they'll just go on a heavy tilt.
They want to fight, they want to engage onto you. Cloud9 with great wave here, with the Gragas, with the Sivir, making it very hard for them, even though they have 5 members to actually push up the wave to even get to the turret. They couldn't. There's always the risk of Morgana popping ultimate, hitting a binding onto you, and then the rest of Cloud9 just piles onto you. Look at the combo here for them. A binding from elimination, followed up by the ulti from high, shoots someone back into the team, into the face of Meteors, gets the kill, gets the reset, and then WE just have to back off. So very hard for them to actually do anything here, unless they can get the perfect engage and not onto elimination.
Blue invade for Cloud9. We do see Cao Mei coming in there though, and I think that's going to be quickly defended by WE. It will be given across. Will Ruo take this one? He has taken the last few, so I'm expecting he wants to. Oh, Boomerang Blade does come out and lands nicely on towards Ruo. They don't get that blue buff. But again, all this pressure being forced from Cloud9 does buy Balls more time on that top lane. In terms of farming, it's almost caught up with Cao Mei.
He's basically just doing what he can do on Shyvana, because as long as he keeps farming, he will keep getting stronger and stronger. We saw him in the last team fight, how he just 1v1 Wei Xiao, just jump onto him, killed him. And Ultimate actually coming down from high here, trying to zone away WE.
Quickly caught, but look at that. Dark Binding on Conan quickly counters it, and Cloud9 keep that pressure pressured on towards the tower. That's what pressure generally does. We see Balls coming down there with the Burning Agony, and again, they keep on pushing towards that tower. Dark Binding doesn't land on Wei Xiao. That would have been a kill, but Cyclone comes out. That's going to be catching all of Cloud9 out. They're bouncing in the air. They will get Ruo down, but can they follow through on towards it? Cao Mei goes aggressive, but he's just being controlled by the Dark Binding. Up in the top lane, we see Meteos. He got himself the kill on towards Zukin. Ruo also went down all early on. It is actually a 2-for-1 for Cloud9, and they run for their lives.
And once again, W goes in, Zukim, he pops his ultimate onto Shyvana this time. So now we had elimination and now Balls. The support and the tank, they need to do more of this Yasuo ultimate. They need to hit the squishy targets. Renekton, he's always going in to the backline. He's tanking everything and doing a very good job. They might be able to get this turret here because Wei Xiao double buff and very healthy.
Yeah, Wei Xiao has been fairly quiet so far in this game. And if he'd have been caught out, I feel he would have been the focus target. But instead, it was WE that went aggressive. And this time it worked out for them. They got an objective off the back of it.
They got an objective. They still lost 2 members for it. So technically they lost the fight, but due to the fact that Caitlyn was more healthy and due to Renekton being healthy, they could actually push down afterwards, getting objective. So in the end, take more gold from it. But still, the team fights have been questionable for them, and that's one thing Cloud9 have been doing well. And of course, again, saw the binding onto Anne before when she actually tried to engage. Instant binding onto her, stopped the engage, and then Wukong has to go in, even though he was on 50%, and go towards Cloud9 and just have to try and pile in for WE side.
So Cloud9 get themselves in and ward out. Check out that Baron. You can see how worried Elimination was about being caught out going in towards that bush. As it stands, he is safe. So everybody backing off, everybody buying. A lot of items coming out here. How do we gauge this one? It's 10-5 in kills, and Cloud9 do have themselves that 5,000 gold advantage.
Yeah, we need to see when Yasuo actually picks up the Infinity Edge, how much damage he can put down once he gets to the right target, because Static Shift and Infinity Edge is the 2 key items onto Yasuo. It's where he hits his power spike with having a lot of damage. Meanwhile, Wukong, we have been brutalizing, we have the Elder Lizard for damage, and he's now going towards tank. I like that route. He can even go Black Cleaver, shred a lot of armor with his ultimate, because every time it actually deals damage, you apply a stack. And with Renekton, with Yasuo, with Caitlyn, armor shred is very, very important. We need to see Last Whispers from them, Black Cleaver again, because Cloud9, they're just going to stack armor.
And there's double static shifts as well, proccing off if they all get a little bit claustrophobic and closed in. High finds himself some farm in this bottom lane. Wei Xiao was down there, but is immediately backed off to keep himself a little bit of distance. Meteos, he's been a man that's been jumping around. 3-1-3 on this Kha'Zix again. Again, it seems to be working well for him.
And he will have his Last Whisper now, so he has the 2 armor penetration items for Kha'Zix. He has the Last Whisper and the Brutalize, so he's having so much burst damage when he actually jumps into the face of someone. And if he can get towards, let's say Wei Xiao, very squishy, or let's say Conan, also very squishy, he will be able to burst them down almost instantly.
Not quite sure Balls wanted to actually fight the Baron there, so he's just going to head on out. Sunfire Cape was blocking off. He just managed to clear out that ward that WE had there. Lots of pings on towards high here from both teams. Actually, I think they're just simply saying there's a pink ward here. Yeah, he's taking the pink ward down the bottom there. Nothing coming from this one. Conan setting up. He's got Tibbers available. I'm wondering if he's going to try and make a play here for WE.
And he's having the early distortion boots enchant onto him as well. So he's going to have less cooldown onto the flash because they want to have him flashing in with Tibbers. And then we have the Wukong ultimate afterwards. So you have a lot of CC, you pile onto them, and then you jump in with the rest of the team.
Zonya's Hourglass almost completed for Elimination. That's not bad for your support. He's been collecting that gold and making good use of it, it seems. He is a long way ahead of Conan right now.
So the Sonics could actually signal that Elimination want to go into the middle of the team, pop his ultimate, and then pop the Sonias. There are two different types you can play Morgana support. The second one is where you stay with your AD carry, and you just peel away the bruisers with your ultimate. But the Dragon is up here. Cloud9, both teams actually in a very good position. We should be seeing a very important team fight.
Yeah, we do see, but look at Cloud9. They're just not caring. They're pushing straight for that mid-inner turret. And well, WE are responding, but Cloud9 have got a great tactical advantage. They're going to take this turret before they get near.
A very good move. They simply noticed WE being on the wrong side of the blue buff, so they could just rotate up the mid lane here. They already had killed the first turret. Smart move by Cloud9, getting a turret, and the Dragon is still up.
And that just completely buys them time. Oh, they're jumping on Wei Xiao. Meteor's going a bit deep there. Has to pop that ultimate to go quickly evacuate. Cyclone catches 3 members. Elimination just managed to pop that ultimate, and they catch down on towards one. They get a second. They jump towards Salve. They get the reset. They jump in again. And would you believe it's an ace for Cloud9? My God, that just turned that fight on its head.
So Meteor's jumping in, more or less as a bait, actually flashing out instantly, followed up by Balls, then he jumps into the face of Wei Xiao and Conan, pushing them away from the team, and then the rest of Cloud9 just kills the members from WE, and they can finish this game.
Can you taste the apple pie right now?
Wow.
Because Cloud9 certainly can. They've turned this game into a victory. Cloud9 defeat WE at the Intel Extreme Masters.
And Cloud9 early game did everything correct, and WE, as soon as they came out of the laning phase, they had no idea what to do because they were in the head. Questionable team fights, and Cloud9, well played. They just punished everything, and Crepo with the predictions.
And High just stretching like it was just another day in the office there. Very well played by Cloud9. They were fairly confident, and you got to give credit. That bottom lane, Lemonation and Sneaky played brilliantly. And we talked about Morgana. We've been wondering where Morgana was all day long, and finally it appears. It does wonders.
We have to give MVP to the bot lane of Cloud9. They went up against Annie Caitlyn, Wei Xiao and Caitlyn. We were saying it's going to be a very hard lane. And then they just go in here and they actually win the lane on CS, going to the team fights, binding after binding from Elimination, landing perfectly, setting up so many things for Cloud9, and just beautiful play.
Quick stats, 317 for Balls, 317 for Meteos, 417 for High, 418 for Sneaky. Do not say they don't work as a team because everybody was involved in these kills. It ended up 15-5. Cloud9 will be going through to play the Taipei Assassins, while Gambit will be playing WE.
And with how dominant Cloud9 looked here, with how dominant TPA looked in the last game, it's going to be an insane game we have coming up with Cloud9 against TPA. And Gambit against WE, both teams looking shaky. I actually have no idea who's going to be the favorite for that one.
It was a 27-minute confident performance, the first international victory for Cloud9, and you see Jack running on and jumping over High. We're going to go over towards our analysis desk with Quickshot, Crepo, and Froggen.
Thank you very much, T-Man and Deficio. And after the lengthy pre-game discussion that we had, after my strong words towards Cloud9, holy shit, did they make me eat them.
Well, if you don't want to eat the apple pie, you'll eat the humble pie. Burk.
It's the truth. Fact of the matter is, they played absolutely phenomenally. I really do just want to highlight some of the things from the early game. Cloud9 absolutely blew me away. First and foremost, the Caitlyn Morgana lane, Sivir Morgana lane going up against Caitlyn Annie. You were saying it's going to be a difficult lane for them. They smashed it. Wei Xiao and Conan had no answer. Up in the top lane, Balls, with the help of an early gank, completely shut down Renekton's early game. Yes, maybe a gank later wasn't ideal, but that's a Shyvana versus Renekton. In this patch, where Renekton is godlike in the top lane, Balls was everywhere with Gragas. You know, he picked up kills, and Meteos and Kha'Zix before level 6, he found kills, he found ganks, he got Cloud9 rolling, and that was an incredible performance.
So where do we start? Let's start on bottom.
Start with the lanes.
All right. Initially, why am I against picking Sivir Morgana into Annie Caitlyn? If they're used to the way you play and itemize correctly, they will outtrade you because Morgana only has so much damage. Sure, if you stand really far and you get hit by a bind and a pull, and then the Sivir Boomerang Blade comes out, sure, that poke you lose. But if that evolves into a trade rather, then you're gonna be behind. And the reason you gotta play it differently, the Annie, in my opinion, should have not went Spell Thieves. Should have started with Q on lane and should have started Doran's Shield. You want to walk up into the face of the Morgana, and even if she binds you, you're gonna try and outtrade her. You want to get as tanky as you can.
So in the matchup, we saw level 1 where Caitlyn actually uses Flash. How much does that do to the lane?
That actually hurts the lane a lot because they're gonna play really scared. You have to just be in their face and abuse their cooldowns. And a little tip, if you're an Annie player against a Morg, don't play the conventional 4-stack Annie. Stay on 3 stacks. You're gonna send your Q out, and then the Morg actually has to call your bluff. Either you're gonna channel your stun with an E mid-flight, or you're not. And any Morgana is basically forced into black shielding. That leaves you with an 18-second window, with then a charge-up stun that you can use to zone and abuse that lane. But props to Sneaky and Elimination. Bind after bind after bind, catch after catch after catch. And once they were finally slipping a little bit behind, who shows up with the perfect gank timing? Meteos. Yeah. Just amazing.
Yeah, it was mind-blowing. I mean, Froggen, what would you take on some of the lane matchups and how Cloud9 played against WE?
I think for the mid lane, there wasn't really any action. Like, he was down 20 CS in mid, not really too exciting. Like, he was roaming as well. He was, like, roaming top a lot, especially the gank onto Renekton with Meteors as well. Like, Meteors, all his ganks were really, really effective. And, like, just the first blood is like, okay, Renekton has to beat Shyvana out of lane. What you actually saw was like, okay, Renekton is actually getting poked low by the Shyvana E, and that's why they could actually execute the dive. Really, really well executed.
Really good point by Froggen here, because which Kazi jungle is going to have in his mind, I'm about to dive this Renekton. He can't do that. But at the same time, High pushes up in mid, rotates top, and the Renekton, he knew it was coming. It was pinged. He popped his ulti. He knew, like, everything, he had all the information, but he thought there's no way in hell they can execute this dive, and they did. And then the young balls comes in and ultis out and flashes out, and it just shows, like, how well they're playing together, how confident they are in their play, and just how well they're executing it. Everybody was really solid on that team, and I'm just gonna give mad props to Balls playing Shiv into Renekton and doing it that way.
I also think the fact that WE actually had really poor base timings, like the first dive, Wukong was spacing after doing the Wolves. At the second time they actually tried to dive, Annie was spacing bottom lane. So they could never take a dragon because there were 3 people top. Doesn't matter. They still can't take the dragon because of those space timings.
So I've got a question about that. Is that just poor decision making on WE's side or poor understanding of your opponents?
Or why not?
Where do you think?
It could also be just a good game read on... I'm not sure they saw the Wukong basing. It's just a worst case scenario for Cloud9 is, yeah, we go for the dive. If they take dragon, so be it. Then we guaranteed know all the resources are down the bottom and we'll put more pressure on top. It's a factor poor game read and it's a factor a little bit unlucky, but it's a nice exploit coming out of Cloud9.
Let's take a step back very quickly. Team WE basically didn't show up in this game. I mean, fact of the matter is Cloud9 from the very opening minutes, they got Wei Zhao's flash on their cake, then they made ganks happen. It was all about Cloud9. They were roaming, they had counter ganks, they were making plays and objectives. Is this, obviously it's Cloud9 playing well, but what about the composition? This is the third time that we've seen a Chinese team running a Wukong Yasuo combination, really going for that sort of all-in. Also take a step further back, all attack damage on the side of WE, they had no real magic damage outside of the AoE from Shyvana, and a black shield from Elimination worked, it prevented the knockup. Did the composition also have a factor to play in this victory for Cloud9? So
I think if you want to play a full AD composition, you need to play aggressive early. We know all the Chinese teams, they love to play aggressive. But this time from WE, all they were doing was just farming up in lanes. They were like waiting for levels. They were like hitting level 10 and they still like, they had done nothing. Like then you see IG, full AD comp, they try to get advantage every single time it's possible. And like WE just didn't like play aggressive enough.
I really think that explains a lot why this kind of composition fell through. If this composition gets behind, it's a lot harder to play. There's still the threat of the one more combo coming out, and especially the inexperience, I think, playing against Morgana. Both on lane, they were rather passive. At one point, they had the right to be, but they just didn't know the pick too well. They didn't know the cooldowns, I feel, well enough to exploit it, or the itemization against it. Then combine that in team fights. A Black Shield against, as you said, against a full AD composition. There's almost nobody on the team that's going to pop a Black Shield, which means it's going to block multiple CC effects. And you saw that one time. They went for the wombo combo on AD carry and support. Good guy supports, shields his AD carry Sneaky. gets off his ultimate, and Sneaky just walks out of the fight.
So I've got a last question I want to pose to you guys. As we were getting towards the later stages of the game, we've seen a couple of team fights back-to-back with all 5 members involved, and they seemed very chaotic from a spectator's point of view. We did see Salme basically trying to dive the backline of Cloud9, and a very similar situation with Balls and Meteos trying to dive the backline of WE. What was your take from those team fights when you were watching it? Which team was playing them better? Was Salme doing a good job? You know, who was out positioning in terms of the play?
I think in team fights, I think they played equally well. I just think C9 actually outpicked them. Like, they had magic damage come in. They had a lot more CC with the Morgana bind, the Morgana ultimate. They can peel with the Morgana ultimate. Now, like, WE, they didn't have magic damage to actually pop the Morgana Black Shield. And it's like, it's so, like, the team fights are just way stronger than WE's.
I agree with everything Froggen said here, and on top of that, these team fights, they're basically controlled chaos. I mean, within the tanky top lane metagame, it is what you need to do. If you're a Shyvana or a Renekton, your job is not to fight the Shyvana or the Renekton, because that won't help. Your job is to dive the backline, go for the carries, and then it's up to the supports. Either they have an Annie that will probably ignore his AD carry, hope he survives, and jump into the fray, land a multiple man tippers, or you have the likes of Morgana, and the way Lemon Nation played it, beautiful. Single target ultis and binds and peel, and just perfect.
Well, guys, we do have an interview on stage, so I do have to cut you off. Sorry about that one, Froggen. Shox is waiting with a member of Cloud9. Let's see what they have to say after that incredible performance. Well played indeed.
Thank you very much, guys. I am indeed joined by Hai, the mid laner for Cloud9. I gotta say, Hai, I was losing faith in the LCS teams a little bit, but you guys came out incredibly strong versus Team WE. Tell me a little bit about how you strategize versus a team that you might not know that much about.
So, our ban and pick phase, it took us a long time to do it actually. We tried to do it last night, but we couldn't agree on things. So we had to do it last night and today as well. So it took a very long time just because there's almost no information of them playing anywhere. And the information we did have was on 3.15. So it's extremely outdated information. So we had no idea what to pick and ban for the longest time.
So if you tell me that there was a little bit of disagreement, what lanes was that about specifically? Who were you most afraid of coming into that matchup?
Well, I don't really want to talk about that too much for obvious reasons since they're very controversial bans at the moment. Basically, we were doing some risky things, basically.
Some risky things. Now, we saw them coming out with the Yasuo. IG year before played it as well. You're very familiar with the matchup. You played Gragas versus Yasuo. How did it go in that mid lane for you?
Right, so I started E to make Caitlyn flash at level 1. That kind of screwed me in lane, basically. Yasuo wins if Gragas starts E, so I lost all pressure mid for a while. But I knew our team would outscale them, so I just played it safe, farmed, and tried to make roams when I could. And he isn't able to do much, because if Gragas leaves lane, he's not going to take your turret. He'll go farm Wraves or something, and he can't dive like a Kha'Zix covering turret. So I just took advantage of the weakness of Yasuo.
Were you surprised yourself in the team that you were building up such an advantage so early?
Well, I was actually really surprised because for one, Balls beat Renekton top as Shyvana, which shouldn't happen, but he won the lane. So when that happens, they're very behind on the back foot. Bottom lane also won, so they had counters for top and bottom, but they lost both of those lanes. And when you pick winning lanes but lose those lanes and get outscaled, you're basically done for.
Yeah, but they did have some chances as they had a really good team fighting comp with the Wukong and the Yasuo ult. What was the main role for you when you come into a team fight? Who do you want to shut down?
Right, so they can always win a team fight just because of their comp. If you get 5-man Wukong, Annie, Yasuo, obviously you'll lose. But if they hit 1 or 2 people, we kill Yasuo and Wukong because they're squishy, and they lose the team fight. And while we just have Shyvana charge at the backline and do whatever he wants.
Yeah, Balls was just charging in indeed. Not over for today yet. You still got one game coming next versus the Taipei Assassins, who looked very strong versus Gambit. What were kind of your impressions of their game before it?
So we watched the game, and they played very well versus Gambit, actually. I was a bit interested in their picks and ban phase, especially against Gambit and what they did. I think the game against Taipei will be much different, as Gambit picked safe lanes, they picked the scale, and that didn't work out that well for them. Hopefully we'll able to change that and take advantage of what didn't, I don't know.
No more thoughts?
I don't know, I kind of lost my train of thought, to be honest.
No worries, I'm going to let you do a shout out to the crowd here because, of course, you're playing it in an offline setting, a huge stadium. How are you liking it?
Right, so I believe this is the biggest stadium and the biggest amount of people watching us for any of our players. So it's really sweet to be able to have this many fans, have this many people watch you. And I'm very happy for everyone that came out, and I appreciate all the support, even if you're not rooting for us.
Well, You are getting a decent amount of applause. I think you made some new fans with that amazing performance. Thank you very much, Hai. We'll of course be seeing you guys in the next matchup versus TPA. And as for us, we have to take a very short break. But when we come back, more action in our next matchup of the day as Cloud9 takes on the Taipei Assassins.